What's up, it's GW? First of all, my man Zane, who's on YouTube, I got him under my subscriptions. Y'all should check him out. My man does something called Truth Music, and I'll tell you what, I've heard a couple of his things, and I think they're pretty awesome, guys. So check him out. He's a really good guy. We started doing the Midsommar review, and my man wrote me a nice reply, so we kicked it back and forth, and he was really awesome. So give his channel some love for me, all right? Moving on. It's Halloween. It's going to be Halloween time, so we still counting down some of my favorite things. But today, I want to talk to you about two movies in particular. One had, believe it or not, over probably 150 ideas for the main concept. And I'm talking about New Line Cinema's movie, Freddy vs. Jason. Now, when this thing hit big, everybody had so many expectations about this. They actually hyped this thing up where they were supposed to have Robert Englund and Kane Hodder do battle. And they actually did it in Vegas where they had two people dressed as the characters. I think Robert Englund did play Freddy Krueger. And they did it in a boxing style promo, which was pulled pretty quickly off TV, but you can find it here on YouTube. Now, the other reason this film is interesting is that it is probably, when you read about this film, it is probably the most mediocre storyline you could get, honestly. One early incantation that was never filmed. They were never all filmed, guys. But the other thing, too, about this film is multiple directors signed on, and it became a script nightmare because fans of Nightmare on Elm Street wanted to see Freddy beat Jason. Fans of Friday the 13th wanted to see Jason beat Freddy. The film falls a little short in both categories because at the end of the film, if you've ever seen it, there's no clear-cut winner. Jason obviously is built like a tank. Freddy, the more speedy of the two. And they were actually going to bring in Ash from the Evil Dead in one rewrite of the script. But again, licensing and marketing made the film fall flat. So the reason that I'm talking to you about this is because I just kind of glanced over and I remember the multiple rewrites. One such incantation was about a cult called the Fred Heads, which were following Freddy Krueger. They followed him from the trial. They were big. They were crime groupies, if you will. And they were actually going to resurrect Freddy. And to do that, they needed Jason to go out, and Jason became a vessel of one of the Fred Heads, thus bringing the real Freddy Krueger back, and, then the fight wouldn't start. Another really weird incantation of the movie was that Jason was now in a courtroom. He was standing trial, and every family of the victim that he's killed would testify. And then it was going to be a boiling point at the end of the movie when Freddy testified how he sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? How he sort of took Pamela Voorhees' attention off Jason so he'd die. Another fan theory, believe it or not, was that Jason, or Freddy, was a camp counselor, and you see that in the film. That's why the trial screenplay would have made sense. But yeah, it was just a long process, and even the battle scene went through many rewrites. One of them actually had him jumping through satellite dishes. One of them had them tearing apart each other in a Kmart sort of style deal, which would be S-Mart. That's why you could bring in Ash. Another one, they were actually in a boxing ring. I mean, the rewrites were more ridiculous as you went on, but I suggest you guys should study this movie. And I'm going to point out some things I like about the movie and some things I don't. First thing I don't like is that the movie, if you watch it, is pro Freddy. It goes Freddy all the way. And I'm not saying I have a problem with Freddy Krueger or nothing, but if you're going to make a movie, Freddy versus Jason, you do it in the vein of, like, Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. You give them both equal backstories, you let them beat the hell out of each other, and you come out and you say, hey, that was pretty good. No clear-cut winner, which is what you need, but then you're going to have people that want a winner. Okay. The next thing I don't like is that in the movie, Jason takes a swipe at Freddy with his machete. Now, he is built like a Sherman tank, but his machete sticks to a table. And you just sit there and go, really? Like, what's the point? That's the one tipping point for me. And the other part of Jason that I didn't really like is because the screenwriters, somehow Kane Hodder, who played Jason for about 5 or 6 movies, was not in this one. He was not. They actually have a dude and he really goes uncredited. So, now this was directed by Ronnie Yu. Ronnie Yu tried to cram everything the fans like and everything that he liked into it. And even, like, the other thing that I don't like about this movie is in the very beginning, Pamela Voorhees is not the Pamela Voorhees you see in Friday the 13th Part 1. This is a different incantation. Thus, the voice has changed. So there you go. But like I said, the one thing I do like about this is you do get to see that Freddy was a camp counselor, played by Robert Englund. And the other thing, okay, the fight really wasn't half bad. They did a little bit of stuff that was on guard. But, I mean, it's a fun movie to watch if you throw all these ideas out the window. And another incantation of this script, which was never filmed, guys, but I'm going to let you know about it, was that in the trial screenplay that was supposed to happen, in the end of the film, Freddy and Jason both go to hell, and they actually end up killing the devil. It was very much unique, but the special effects, no one could figure out how to do these things and keep a good story. That's why all these screenplays, guys, fell apart. Then, after this movie, they tried something which was pretty interesting. New Line Cinema brought back Freddy Krueger. And anybody who's anybody will tell you this thing will fail because of one key element. Robert Englund was not in this. Thus, they had Jake Ely play Freddy Krueger. The mannerisms are sinister, but gone are the wisecracking comments that Freddy hurls out before a kill. The other thing that's gone is the cool Freddy makeup. They made him look like a toad in this film. Whoever bright idea that was, I don't know. Again, that's my two main concerns about this film, why I don't like it. But there is another reason why I like it. In this film, you get to see Freddy stand trial for the crimes. You get to see the townsfolk go nuts on him. Now, you have only seen that prior to this in Nightmare on Elm Street. You saw it in flashbacks. Nightmare on Elm Street 2. 1 or 2, I believe. But then on Freddy's Nightmares, they did a whole episode of Freddy being caught going to trial. Or going to trial, and then the parents go crazy, and this and that. This does have a lot of blood and gore, and it's got basically the same story. It's a little darker take, and the other thing that's gone from this film is Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp is not in here, thus one of the most important kills in history of cinema, horror cinema, is gone with him. This film is mediocre at best, and it was an attempt for New Line to launch a new Nightmare on Elm Street series, much like they did with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and much like they, did with, I think, Halloween. They kept on the Halloween sequels. That being said, reviving Nightmare on Elm Street was not enough for New Line. They set their sights on the Friday the 13th franchise, which, I gotta tell you, even though it did get 1 star from the critics, I liked it. Now, these 2 films were produced by Michael Bay. Michael Bay had a company called Platinum Dunes, and they were going to do a ton of horror movies. Now, after resuscitating Freddy Krueger, they did Friday the 13th. I was very, very on the fence about this because I said, look, no Kane Hodder, no Jason, right? This film was trashed by critics because it was like they said mindless blood sport entertainment, don't waste your money, same old garbage. But if you like Friday the 13th, I'm a big Jason fan, okay? If you like this film, I was more Jason than Freddy. Okay, just so you know, this was another one, and it was done by Marcus Nispel. Now, why does that name sound familiar to horror fans? Because he directed the remake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre with Arlie Emery. You guys should check that out. I'm not going to go through a timeline on it. Maybe sometime I will. And that film stars Jessica Biel as the heroine, which was a great film because it took everything from the original, hyped it up, shot adrenaline in it, and it brought back the cannibalism aspect as well as the crazy, demented family, and they did an awesome job with that. They just changed their name from the Sawyers, which was the one in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 with Dennis Hopper, to the Hewitts, but that's a whole nother deal. So, anyway, this is a Michael Bay Platinum Dunes picture. And it also stars Jared Padalecki and Danelle Panabaker. What a group of people who are going to get slaughtered and massacred. Now, this film is about a guy going to Crystal Lake to find his sister, which is being held captive by, you guessed it, Jason Voorhees. Why do I like this picture? Is it dumb in a slasher sort of way? Yes. Do you hate the kids? Some of them you do. But the kills are inventive. And they bring back a lot of the kills that fans of the series love. Like, a girl swimming in a lake gets shot in the head with an arrow. Great kill. Reminiscent of what, guys? The arrow kill in Friday the 13th Part 3. Sleeping bag kill, I believe, is in here. Excuse me. Even the death scene leaves you wondering. Now, there was going to be a number 2, but as we all know, Victor Miller and Sean Cunningham are still going through the lawsuit, which means any Friday the 13th related stuff is going to be put on pause because, and you can't do an official movie because no one knows who's got the rights for it. So, there you go. But anyway, this is a much better film, I think, than Nightmare on Elm Street. And if you're a fan of Friday the 13th, if you haven't seen this, you need to go check this out. So, that being said, we're going to move on now to a very old classic that some people may have missed or thought maybe, hey, you know, this really isn't good. It's Abel Ferrara's Driller Killer. I'm going to hold this up here because you guys probably don't know what this is about. This came out, by the way, this is the uncut version. This thing was butchered and censored because of its portrayal of graphic violence at that time. Came out in 1979. Now, who is Abel Ferrara? Well, he's the guy that did a movie called Bad Lieutenant with Harvey Keitel. If you haven't seen that one, it's a very, very, very controversial film about a detective who is investigating the rape of a nun. He's also a junkie, a druggie, and basically has no morals. And the film actually won an award, and Keitel himself, probably, to my knowledge, has never played a character like that again. Now, gangsters don't count, but when you watch that film, you will see that Harvey Keitel literally puts everything on the line for that film. Now, they did make a sequel to that, Bad Lieutenant Port Call of New Orleans, with Nick Cage. It really fell short of a lot of expectations. But anyway, Abel Ferrara plays Jimmy Lane. Who is Jimmy Lane? He's an artist. What is Jimmy Lane's problem? He's slowly driven mad by the pressures of New York life. And in the climax of the film, he takes to the streets with a cordless power drill, murdering derelicts. And this was actually supposed to be in the tradition of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The end result was more along the lines of Scorsese's Taxi Driver in Atmosphere. You can tell that he basically is looking at a man slowly going to the break point, and then pow. Now, this is one of those movies you're either going to like or you're going to hate. It is very interesting to see what does happen in the slow deterioration and making this guy snap. But it's not for everybody. And if you're not a fan of like slow burn to medium burn movies, you're probably going to want to bypass this. However, if you love 70s horror and you love sort of off the wall weird kind of things or strange things, give The Driller Killer a try. I like the director. He also did another movie called Miss 45, which, if you haven't seen that, is very, very powerful. It's about a woman who got raped and is now prowling the streets of New York with a handgun, blowing away would-be rapists, thieves, and con artists. It's pretty awesome. Definitely check out that for the shocking ending. So, anyway, hope you enjoy that. But yeah, give my man Zane a shout out, man. He's a good guy. And channel's pretty cool. He's got a lot of cool stuff on there. You know. And what can I say? But yeah, you guys should definitely check these out. And who knows, maybe in a few days I'll drop some more tidbits. But if you're looking for something this Halloween season, definitely give it a whirl. And we'll see what else comes down the line. We got plenty of time before Halloween. We're gonna talk about all kinds of slasher movies, man. I'm telling you. TW, peace.